Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Saggy here today with
Jason Gotti,
Michael Bailey,
and Dan Majors.
And today we will be talking about the New York Knicks. What is next for the Knicks, what they should do this offseason with their draft picks, free agency, possible trades. So, the Knicks, what to do with their draft picks. This year they have the number 8 pick in the draft, number 44, and number 58. Dan, what do you think they should do this year in the draft?
Well, you gotta keep 8, and you gotta pick up either Tilikana, or however you say his name, or Dennis Smith, and I feel like that would be a perfect duo to match up with Porzingis. And then with second rounders, I feel like pick up whoever you want, but if you can trade those, then that'd be fine too. So
I agree with you, Dan. I think that Frank Natilla would be a really good pickup at 8, but with their second rounders and their other first rounders, they could look to trade him, but I think the real one they're concerned about is the number 8, Gandhi.
Yeah, at number 8, I have them getting. They just need to hope like heck there's a guard available. Obviously, the point guards are even better, so I think their first option is definitely De'Aaron Fox. If he's there, you take him in a heartbeat. If not, you hope Malik Monk's there, and then if he's gone, you look at somebody like Dennis Smith or Frank Ntilikina. So either way, you definitely need a guard because you cannot rely on Courtney Lee and Derrick Rose to be your backcourt anymore. And then going into 44 and 58, I think you try to trade it to Orlando for 35, because Orlando needs as many players as they can get, and the Knicks need best player available. So if they do trade for 35, then you hope that someone that was on a low first-round grade falls to somebody like Caleb Swanigan if they had a first-round grade on him, DJ Wilson, people like that they might have graded higher. Because once you get outside the top 20, top 25, every team switches like who they rank higher. So I think that's what you want to do if you're the Knicks. You want to get into that early second round and take someone that fell out of that was the highest available for you. So that's kind of my strategy with the draft from the New York Knicks.
All right, number 8, like you said, I think De'Aaron Fox or Malik Monk. Obviously, if they're there, you take them, either the Kentucky guards, but more likely to be available at number 8, Dennis Smith or Frank Ntilikina. So Dennis Smith, that's who's in the most mock drafts right now. I like him at 8. The Knicks just really need a point guard or a shooting guard, one of the two, to be able to build a young core with Porzingis. And what's also been reported in the last few days is that the Knicks were interested in trading one of Portland's first-round picks. So if they can get that, I think they should definitely try to deal their second-rounders to see if they can move up. Someone else, obviously, in the deal, too, and try and get maybe Donovan Mitchell, Luke Kennard, or one of the big centers that's going to be drafted in the late first round, because there's a lot of depth for big guys in this draft.
I don't know if I would do that if I'm the Knicks, to be honest. I don't know if I'd go into that first round, because once you get outside the top 15, there's talent depending on where you look, but is it worth giving? Because you're not going to get him for the 44 and 58. You're going to have to give up a first rounder next year. You're going to have to give up something else, and is it worth doing that for the chance that this guy turns out to be okay? Because, I mean, there's some guys, like you mentioned, Kennard and Mitchell and Justin Jackson, that I'm a huge fan of, but also there's some guys like Ike and Nig Bogu, however you say him, from UCLA, and Justin Patton, guys I'm not as high on that could also not pan out, and now you just gave up possibly. I mean, it's pretty likely that they could have to give up a first rounder for that. So I don't know if it's worth that risk. So just if that report comes to be true, I would stay pat with the Knicks and look to go up early second round, late first. Someone like the Lakers, Spurs, or Jazz, 28, 29, 30, maybe trade with them. I wouldn't go up into that top 20 range because you're going to have to give up too much. Try to stay in those late 20s if you want to trade up.
Yeah, I don't think the Knicks should be trading for Portland's 15th pick, but if one of the centers that they like, such as Patton, Jared Allen, falls to late 20s, they can make a deal in there and pick up one of them to pair with Porzingis and possibly Dennis Smith or Frank Ntilikina that they drafted in the first round. That would be a good move for the Knicks.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned 15. I agree. If they can get into anywhere in the 20s, you're not going to get to give up as much, especially 25 after. I mean, you could usually you can just trade like 2 second rounders. So if they decide to do that, they might. I don't know what the Portland picks. If they're 25 plus, they could possibly swing 44 or 58 in cash considerations for that pick, which would be huge.
All right, well, moving past the draft, let's talk about free agency for the Knicks. Some free agents that make sense. Jason, what free agents make sense for the New York Knicks?
Okay, so before I get into specific names, the way I look at it for me, if I'm the New York Knicks, I want to get cheap, young guys that have potential. So the guys that maybe went late first, early second 2-3 years ago, now coming off their rookie contracts that aren't looked at as high, or you look at guys that are just young. You want to get younger because the Knicks have like one of the top 15 oldest rosters in the league, and yet they won like 30 games last year. So if I'm the Knicks, I'm looking at cheap young guys with potential. Some of those names, Alex Len, Nerlens Noel, I think would be home runs if you can get them. Probably Noel more than Len, but either way, I think if you can get either of them off their restricted deal, that's a go-to. But I think on a lower quality, a cheap young guy, someone like Trey Burke, Tyler Ennis, both played well in their limited role, especially Ennis when he came to the Lakers. That second half of the season, when he got those minutes because the Lakers were so banged up, he really played well. So if they can get him on a 2-year, $8 million contract, something like that, I think Ennis and Burke would be a good find. But if they decide to go a little more expensive, they got some cap room if they get rid of Rose and all them. Someone that could fit nicely is Drew Holiday. He's 26, and his brother plays on the Knicks right now, Justin, I think, right? And so, I mean, if Drew and Justin want to pair up on New York, I think that'd be a decent fit. So that's kind of my thing. I think just in general, free agents you want to look at, cheap, young, could maybe be a home run that you could go back and go, wow, that was a steal. How'd no one want them? Someone like that. I don't think they're going to be able to get a Kevin Durant to come to the Knicks like if they were 10 years ago and they were pretty good. So the Knicks got to go young and look to hopefully hit a home run with a young guy.
Yeah, I also like Drew Holiday a lot. But another guy that I think they should get is Andre Iguodala. Great presence in the locker room. And the Warriors are going to have a tough time re-signing him because of issues with re-signing Curry and stuff like that. So Iguodala will be good in the locker room. Good for the team.
Yeah, I like all those pickups for the Knicks, especially Iguodala if they want to trade Melo or let him go. But I think a couple of other free agents that might make sense, not necessarily for youth or anything, but I think a good fit. Again, if Carmelo leaves, I think Danilo Gallinari could be a good fit.
A reunion. Didn't he play in New York like 8 years ago?
Yeah, I think he was part of the deal that sent Melo to the Knicks.
And Gallinari New York reunion.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good fit, a nice shooter to pair with Porzingis and a point guard that they drafted at 8, and also J.J. Redick, another guy that could be a good shooter for the Knicks, go along with their young guys. Obviously, he's not really young, but I think another good presence in the locker room that could fit well.
Yeah, I like what you guys said about the locker room presence with Redick, Iguodala, and Gallinari. My only worry is they're going to be expensive. You already overpaid for Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, Joakim Noah. If you can get one or two of those off the books, you've still got one or two left. Is it worth bringing in another guy? Because you remember the salary cap's going up. And if you're going to get Iguodala, the only way Iguodala is cheap is if he decides he wants to stay with the Warriors. He's gonna get not a max, but he's gonna get a hefty deal of $10+ million a year. Do the Knicks want to shell out $10 million a year to a 32, 33-year-old small forward when they could get one in the draft at second round? That's just my thing. Is I like what you're saying if they were closer to winning, but they've got to hit the rebuild button. Where I don't know if this makes sense, but does that make sense? Kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about fit with the roster, and I think definitely locker room presence to help bring along those young guys. I mean, I don't think J.J. Redick or Andre Iguodala is going to turn them into a playoff team.
Yeah.
So I think they'll still be able to be bad for a few more years, rack up some more high first-round picks, and get some young guys while developing those guys in the locker room. But moving past free agents, let's talk about trades. A realistic trade that the Knicks could make this summer. Jason, what do you have?
I got two for you. So, around the trade deadline, there was rumor about the Clippers being interested. If the Clippers are interested, I think to make the salary cap and all that work, you could potentially go Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, and then get Brandon Bass to equal out the contract. I think those three for Melo would be good for the Clippers because you only have to give up 2 out of the 3 that was talked about at the deadline. if I'm the Knicks, like you even mentioned JJ Redick coming in free agency, now it's too late to trade him. But I don't know if that's even a good. Like, I wouldn't do this if I was the Knicks because I'm not a big fan of Austin Rivers. I think he's okay. I think Crawford's too old, but I think the Knicks would do it because we've heard Phil Jackson say that Melo would be better off somewhere else. So I feel like the Knicks are desperate enough where they'd have to do it almost if they get no other offers. So if the Clippers are interested, that's my offer there. If they're not, I look at the Bulls as a potential trade partner because D-Wade's there, Jimmy Butler, maybe try to go back all in like they did last year. I'm looking at a Melo for Rajon Rondo, Nikola Mirotic after they re-sign him, and the 2019 first-rounder for Melo, just to for the Bulls to kind of go back all in. The Knicks get an expensive old point guard back, but they do get someone that had a really good rookie season in Nikola Mirotic and then a first-rounder. So those are kind of my two trade options. I think with the Clippers or the Bulls, whichever one the Knicks prefer.
Mine is also a Melo trade to the Clippers. A little more in this deal this time. I say Melo and Courtney Lee for JJ Redick, a sign and trade, Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, and Wes Johnson. I think the Knicks, obviously a lot of salary coming their way, but Jamal Crawford, after next year, his salary is not guaranteed anymore. A young guy in Austin Rivers and JJ Redick, like we mentioned in free agency, a guy that fits well with their roster. Kind of get rid of Courtney Lee in the deal for the Knicks, so just kind of retracting last year's moves. Obviously, they didn't work, and going back to kind of the starting board, dealing away Melo and Courtney Lee, getting a few young pieces back, but obviously the trades are not really equal in terms of talent going to both sides. The Clippers are going to win this deal, but I think the Knicks are kind of desperate to get rid of Melo right now and kind of start building a new young core. But Michael, you have something?
Yeah, I think it's definitely rebuild time for the Knicks. Melo's getting up there in age, and I honestly think they should just get rid of him. I think his time's done.
Yeah, it sounds like everyone there is ready for him to be done. I think Melo, I don't know, I feel like Melo kind of wants to stay because, he's been there since how long? 2011 now? 2010? Something like that. It was around the time LeBron went to the Heat. So 6-7 years. 2011?
Yes.
Okay, so 6 years. I don't know. I feel like Melo would want to stay, but as I'm going to get into when we get into our headline, I think Phil has ruined that for not only him, but what free agent wants to come play for the New York Knicks now? I get that you have a big market, but you see this whole thing with James Dolan and Charles Oakley. You see Kristaps now being not very happy, and now you see Melo being pushed out of New York. Who would want to come to New York? So if I'm the Knicks, I'm almost like, we need Melo, but clearly Phil does not want him.
Just like every single NBA player, Melo wants money, and a lot of it, and he's going to get that.
And that's why he went to the Knicks in the first place.
I think Melo wants a ring.
Does he, though? He could have done that 2 years ago. He signed a 5-year crazy expensive deal when he could have gone to the Bulls or Lakers when the Lakers had Dwight Howard. It was Dwight Howard and Melo on that same team. But this is
different. This is maybe something's changed in his mind.
Maybe, yeah. Going through seeing the rebuilding and how painful it is. Maybe he is ready to win a ring.
And how easy it was for KD.
Yeah.
When he just went to the Warriors just like that.
Yeah, I think that could work. I don't know. It kind of is up to me. The ball's kind of in Melo's court because he has a no trade clause, so he can really kind of pick where he wants to go for the most part.
Yeah, Melo, obviously, I think he's pretty much realized by now that he cannot be the best player on a championship team. He's got to go somewhere else if he wants to win. But if he wants the money, New York is probably his number one option for right now. But we talked a little bit about headlines, and obviously Melo has a lot to do with the headlines. One headline for the Knicks next year, Dan?
Can Phil Jackson make the right moves in the offseason to make a step in the right direction for next year? That's going to be tough, but I think they can do it. Also, another thing is a duo for the future. If they can pick up Tilikana, or however you say his name, or Dennis Smith, or maybe even Monk or Fox, which they probably will.
Fox will go top 5, I think.
Yeah,
but if for some reason he falls, I feel like every year there's one player that always falls. Maybe Fox is that guy, but it doesn't sound like it. But yeah.
Or Lonzo.
Stop.
Yeah, most likely that won't happen. But whoever they draft in Porzingis, a duo for the future that could be great for New York.
Dylan?
I'm going to go back to the same question that we were kind of just talking about. Can the Knicks be a contender with Melo on the roster? I mean, I don't think he can lead them to a championship, especially if Phil Jackson can't find him any help. But can they even make it to the playoffs? Or are they just going to tank for the next few years, build around Porzingis? That's the question Phil Jackson and the Knicks are going to have to answer this offseason.
I kind of went into it earlier, so there's not much else for me to say, but the Knicks would be better off without Phil is my headline. He's now pushing Melo out the door. He's starting to push Kristaps out the door. And if I am any free agent, good, big, medium, or small, the Knicks are not my first choice right now. Their front office is a mess. Their owner is now fighting one of the greatest legends in their franchise. Their president of basketball operations is kicking everyone out, and their GM, you don't even know who he is. Like, right now, that front office is probably the second or third biggest mess after Sacramento. And so the Knicks just need to clean house, front office, and roster-wise, and start over. You saw with the Lakers this year and over the last few years, getting rid of Kupchak, Buss, all them. The Knicks need to hit the same button, realize it's not going to work out, bringing in the greatest players from 6 years ago, and start over. Build around Kristaps instead of kicking him out of New York. So that was my headline, is the Knicks would be better off without Phil.
All right. Moving past the headline, since we are talking about Carmelo Anthony and the Knicks in this episode, Carmelo obviously never making an NBA Finals in his career. Can he do it with the Knicks? But we're going to go into the top 5 players to never make an NBA Finals in their career. So let's go with our number 5s. Dan, who do you got?
I've got Chris Webber at 5.
I'm going to take Vince Carter at number 5. Jason, who do you have?
I went Chris Paul. He still hasn't gotten to a conference finals either.
5?
Yeah. I mean, my top 4 that I have are all better than Chris Paul. 3 are Hall of Famers, and 1's going to be Hall of Famer in the next 3 years. So,
I mean, is
yeah,
Chris Paul
Dan
not
just
going to be a Hall of
told
Famer?
me he doesn't have Chris Paul in his top 5.
I don't even have Chris
Whoa.
Paul in my top
Yeah,
5.
Chris Paul is not. Chris Paul
Look
is
at my top 5. That's
exactly
Chris Paul should not be
my
in there.
order. There's 3 Hall of Famers, 1 to-be Hall of Famer, and
I mean, is Chris Paul not a to-be Hall of Famer?
did he win 2 MVPs? Steve Nash did, and that's my number 4. There's a preview. Steve Nash, my number 4. But he's not better than a Hall of Famer right now, and he didn't win multiple MVPs. Michael, what you got?
My 5 is also Vince Carter.
All right.
So moving in, number 4, Jason already said his. I've got Carmelo Anthony at 4. Dan, what about you?
I got George Gervin at number 4.
I've got George Gervin at 3 as we go into the number 3. Great player on the Spurs. Oh, my bad, Michael. Who do you got at 4?
4, I had Steve Nash.
Attaboy. All right. At 3, I've got George Gervin. Never making it to a conference final either. Or no, sorry, getting to the conference final once, but one of the greatest players ever to play in the Hall of Fame. And
The greatest players ever to play?
George Gervin, he's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, I wouldn't be putting him around my
He's
top
in my top
10,
50.
top 20.
I mean, he's top 50, top 40.
I mean, if you look at all the players that have ever played in the NBA, and
I mean,
he's in your
obviously.
top 50, that's a pretty
That's
high.
one of the greatest. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking greatest more like top 20, 25. But my number 3 has to be Dominique Wilkins. Dan, who do you have?
I have Steve Nash at number 3.
Nice. Michael?
Dominique Wilkins.
All
All
right.
right.
At my number 2, I've got Dominique Wilkins. Just kind of passing him around right now. Great dunker, great player. Really was a cornerstone of the 85-86 Hawks and just that little run they made.
Number 2, I have Dominique. So
Yeah, you did.
I'm going to go with Chris Paul at number 2. I think by the end of his career, he's going to be better than Dominique Wilkins, Melo, Carter, who I have at 5.
well,
Well, hold
Just-
up. You had Wilkins below Chris Paul.
Yes.
Explain that one.
wait, are we talking at the end of their career or right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Okay, well, he was saying.
I mean,
we
if
don't
you
know
re-
what Chris Paul will do.
Yeah, Chris Paul could get shot tomorrow. Like,
Oh.
you have no idea what's gonna happen.
I
Like,
mean, so I think that Chris Paul is better than Dominique Wilkins. At least he will be by the end of his career. I mean, if you look at the stats right now, I mean, Dominique's had a more decorated career. But I
that's all
think
that you need to talk about then.
well, Chris Paul, I think by the end of his career and the impact that he's made off the
Well,
court.
this isn't about who's dead in the career.
And this is
I think
all
Lonzo
on-
Ball's going to do it. Like, I don't know. You can make up whoever you want. Like, it doesn't matter. Right now, Chris Paul is number 5 for me. Dan wasn't on the list. Wasn't on Michael's list. I don't know how he's number 2. I don't know how he can be better than Hall of Famers right now.
I mean, if he retired today, I think he would be a Hall of Famer.
He would not be better than Steve Nash, George Gervin, Dominique Wilkins. Is
I
that
think-
consensus around here besides Dylan?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
All right, whatever you guys think.
Just take this.
I feel like there's a little Clippers bias here.
I agree.
I
Yeah,
mean,
there's a little bit of a Clippers
I
bias.
think
But I
Jason
think
has a
there's
little bit of
bias
bias
in
at number 1.
I do. Elgin Baylor, one of a top 7 greatest small forward of all time. He retired the year before Wilt came over, and him and Jerry West went on to win a bunch of championships. I don't know if there's any bias there. Elgin Baylor's he's in like every top 30 of all time to play. Like Elgin Baylor is an easy Hall of Famer. There's no debate there for me. I know Pete Maravich was the one guy that I kind of forgot to put on my list. That I'd probably put him even over Chris Paul, but I think pretty easily Elgin Baylor's number 1. There's not a debate there for me.
I'm going to go with Steve Nash, number 1. You guys talked about him earlier. 2-time MVP. Never able to make it to the finals, though. Left the Mavs with Dirk and really never was able to with the Suns either. But a great NBA career.
Yeah, I've got Pete Maravich number 1. His career was cut short, but he took the NBA by storm for a while. So
I agree with you, Gandhi. I also have Elgin Baylor at my number 1.
There we go. No Lakers bias there. So
Yeah,
that'll sum it up for you. That in today's episode of What's Next for the New York Knicks, we all kind of say Melo's gone, and don't rush Kristaps out too quickly. And the Knicks are definitely hitting that rebuild button. Tomorrow we will have the Buffalo Bills season preview. Monday we'll have a recap of the finals game 2. Dylan's pulling for the Cavs. I'm pulling for the Warriors. That'll be a good episode for sure. So make sure you tune in. Thanks for listening. I'm Jason Gotti.
I'm Dylan Staggy.
I'm Dave Majors.
And I'm Michael Bailey.
And we'll see you tomorrow for the Buffalo Bills season preview. Will they get back on track?